as an escort in the 1990s. The Daily Mail suggested Mrs. Trump not only worked as a model in New York and met husband Donald earlier than previously reported, but her lawyers said the claims were outright lying and egregious, malicious and harmful to Mrs. Trump. The Daily Mail and blogger Webster Tarpley have since retracted the articles. In a moment, we'll be hearing from Webster, but first, our chief correspondent, Alex Thompson, reports.
The media, the worst people ever. The worst.
I hate some of these people, but I'd never kill them. I hate them. No,
So we know he hates the press. Now he's suing them, and it's personal. It's the wife. It's Melania. Remember this, her convention speech widely criticised as being not her speech in significant parts.
My husband is ready to lead this great nation.
That put her centre stage. Further allegations followed, vehemently denied that she'd worked illegally as a model in the US. Explosive, if true, given Trump's views on Mexicans coming to work in the country without papers. On August the 4th, Melania Trump had had enough and fought back on Twitter, saying, "I have at all times been in full compliance with the laws of this country." So things were simmering, and then the lid blew off, and it blew off right here near the seat of power in the United States. Team Trump suing Britain's Daily Mail and Mail Online in a court in a suburb of Washington, D.C. for more than $150 million after the paper suggested Melania Trump had worked as an escort in her modeling days. The case is being launched in a Washington suburb because Trump is also suing a local blogger from there, Webster Tarpley. In a statement, Trump's lawyer Charles Harder said,
"These defendants made several statements about Mrs. Trump that are 100% false and tremendously damaging to her personal and professional reputation. They broadcast their lies to millions of people throughout the US and the world without any justification."
Astonishingly, in the UK, the Mail and Mail Online instantly collapsed, taking down the story, offering profuse retractions online and on paper.
We did not intend to state or suggest that these allegations are true, nor did we intend to state or suggest that Mrs. Trump ever worked as an escort or in the sex business.
There's no way a case like this could get off the ground in the UK based on our defamation law, a law that the Daily Mail always complains about, but which is now pretty good. And secondly, of course, there's no question of damages anything like 150 million, and the maximum damages in this country are about $250,000 for something really egregious.
Tonight, at least one man who sued the tabloids for telling lies about his personal life and won, says Team Trump might just win in the US.
Well, I think it's going to be very interesting because if you want to win a case like that in America, you have to prove what they call malice, which means that the people who published it knew it wasn't true or were completely careless as to whether it's true. That, I think, they'd have a very good chance with because the Daily Mail has got endless form.
Legal opinion would counsel, however, that malice is a tough thing to prove before an American jury. Recently, a lawyer in the US sued a website and won $140 million for his client, Hulk Hogan, the wrestler. So it can be done. And yes, that same lawyer is now Trump's man, coming for the Mail and the Mail Online. As the wife herself puts it,
When you attack him, he will punch back 10 times harder.
Well, earlier I spoke to Webster Tarpley via the internet from Maryland. He's the blogger being sued by Melania Trump. I put to him that he couldn't put just any old tittle-tattle out there, which her lawyers describe as allegations so egregious, malicious and harmful, they think there should be damages of $150 million.
I hope you ask the London Daily Mail the same questions because they essentially put out something quite similar.
Well, I would if I could get them in the studio, but
may.
they also say we didn't intend to state or suggest that these allegations are true. So why then were they published in the first place by yourself?
Well, you're going to have to ask them about that. But here's the problem. The first family in the United States must be above reproach. And this means that if there are unclarified issues or other matters in the personal histories of people in the first family, this is a very great danger to the form of government because foreign intelligence agencies, right? You can go through the list of countries that might do this. foreign intelligence agencies would be able then to use these unclarified issues as a means of blackmailing the United States government. And this is what I proceeded from. This was my principal fear.
Are you worried about this lawsuit? How will you fund the legal fees?
I am worried about the fate of the United States. I am worried about the First Amendment. I am worried about the chilling of public debate, the suppression of inquiry into public figures in all forms who simply have billions of dollars and therefore can try to silence in independent journalistic voices. And I think that is very dangerous for the country.
Why do you think that you, a local blogger, have been sued alongside a big British newspaper, the Mail? Why have they picked on you?
Well, first of all, it is ironically an honor to be chosen to defend the First Amendment. I guess I'm the only American on the receiving end of this legal proceeding.
Webster Tarpley, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
So in a week when Donald Trump also told a cheering crowd in Arizona that Mexico would pay for a border wall between the two countries, how have these very different headlines played into the campaign? I'm joined now by the Conservative political commentator and Trump supporter, Ann Coulter in New York. Ann Coulter, what impact first do you think this legal action from Melania Trump will have in the campaign?
None at all. In fact, I hadn't heard anything. I think I had heard something about it, but that's the only interview I've heard on it. I don't think anyone believes it, and I don't think anyone cares. We're not electing Melania. And if you want to compare first families, Bill Clinton was quite credibly and thoroughly investigated by ABC News, for example, for raping Juanita Broderick and massively molesting lots of women. We have Hillary's top aide, Huma Abedin, connected to and for many years an editor of a Sharia publication pushing the Saudi government's line.
Hang on, you're throwing out allegations now in the same way that the Trump campaign has criticised the allegations being thrown at Melania Trump. So let me ask you this. Was Melania Trump right to sue, do you think? Because it's drawn a whole lot of attention to the story over here, even if not over there, as you say.
Yes, I think when you're slandered, you should sue. This is why Peter Thiel is a hero in this country for shutting down Gawker, for putting up that secretly videoed tape of Hulk Hogan having sex. I mean, that's not news. That is just terrorism.
He might be a hero
the idea
to
this
you,
is some sort of First Amendment right to lie about someone and slander someone, and I'm not throwing out unsubstantiated allegations. Juanita Broderick said she was raped by Bill Clinton. ABC News is hardly a right-wing outlet. They investigated for a full year, and the charges were extremely credible. You can review the tape on that. It's also a fact that Huma Abedin is on this Saudi publication.
Okay, look, you're talking about all sorts of allegations, some of which have not been substantiated.
They're
so
not
let's move on to. Well, okay, let's move on to what. Let's deal with the words.
Allegation.
Okay, you support Donald Trump. Let's deal with some of the words he's put out this week in the campaign on immigration, for example. Now, he was supposedly toning down the rhetoric on immigration. He hasn't. Why not?
I think the softening, he's done this before. He's a very smart and strategic thinker. The alleged softening tricked every cable news station into covering his absolutely magnificent speech live, something they've never done before. Toward the end of the speech, he brought on what are called the angel moms, and that is mostly mothers, some fathers of children who have been murdered quite horribly by illegal aliens who shouldn't have been in this country. Every other time he's done that, and I've been at a lot of his speeches, I've spoken at a lot of his speeches, every time he has brought the angel moms, parents of children killed by illegals, every time he brings them on stage, the networks cut away. Right, well, this time they didn't, because they were waiting to see if there would be any of this alleged softening.
Sure, but if it was a triumphant speech, as you put it, why is it that members of the Hispanic Advisory Council that Mr. Trump set up only 2 weeks ago have been walking out as a result?
Of all the groups divided by ethnicity in America, the one that cares the least about this election, that I think the least rides on it, are Hispanic Americans. That is quite different for the leaders of these grievance groups. The more Hispanics there are, the more popular they are, the more desirable they are for media, the more money they get. It's purely self-interest, as it is for campaign consultants and pollsters and the Washington insiders. Trump has shown they're utterly unnecessary. They don't know what they're doing. But the Hispanic leaders, that's very different from Hispanic voters. They want just a never-ending supply of Hispanics to increase their own power, media visibility, and money.
I'd love to go on, but Ann Coulter, thanks very much for joining us. The electronics company Samsung is recalling its just-released flagship smartphone after battery problems apparently caused dozens of the devices to catch fire during or after charging. Some of those affected have posted footage online. 2.5 million Galaxy Note 7 devices have been bought.